Well, welcome back. Today we're going to be looking at layering down contrast. Today we're going to create this image in Photoshop. We're in Photoshop's Creative Cloud, and I'm going to show you various ways to add a contrast, either color contrast or luminosity contrast. Now, if you watched my last video, and if you haven't, go to the YouTube channel or onto the Contrastly website and take a look. We discuss various things that can help draw our viewer's eye into certain parts of the image. It's almost like drawing your viewers a map, and one of the things we discussed was contrast. So today we're going to use pretty much purely various forms of contrast to add impact to this picture. Here's what we started with. And you can see that Barney's, that's the name of the dog by the way, Barney's sat on quite a light background. It wasn't pure white, but it's fairly light background. And the white contrasting with his dark fur has already created a fair bit of separation between him and the background, contrast. So from there, it's just a matter of making some global and selective adjustments to accentuate certain parts of Barney's face further and add a little bit more visual impact to the image. So let's get cracking. I'm going to move through this tutorial fairly briskly, but hopefully not too quick that you can't keep up. The first thing I'm going to do is do just a simple global increase in contrast. Press Command or Control J to duplicate our background layer, and I'm going to name this one Contrast Boost Global. Don't need to rename it, but it helps if you get lots of layers. And I'm going to change the blend mode. You can either to overlay, which is quite strong, or soft light. We'll start with overlay, and automatically that's increase the depths of the blacks and increase the highlights as well. And also we can reduce the opacity, which we'll do. And then also, if I decide that actually I like the blacks going deeper, but I don't want the highlights burning out here, which is going to be quite light, we can double click on the side of the layer and bring up the layer style dialog. And if we hold down the Alt or Option key and drag this highlight slider down, we can just bring back, and you can probably see that if you look in this area here, you can see as I drag this slider down, we're bringing that highlight detail back in. So just by splitting these sliders, we can graduate the effect rather than just pulling it all back in one go. So I'm going to pull that down a little bit. Click OK. There's before, there's after. So also automatically there in one foul swoop, we've added globally quite a bit of contrast to the image. It's a good idea maybe to stick a levels adjustment on top of this. Hold down the Alt or Option key again, and we can just check and keep an eye on the highlights here. Make sure we're not losing any important highlights, which we're not. Same with the darks. Less worried about the darks, and we can just leave that in place just to keep coming back and checking we're not losing or clipping any important detail. So next thing I want to do is add some selective contrast to the image. A couple of ways we can do that. We can make a curves adjustment like so, and add the adjustment in there, and then fill that layer with black, and then paint it back in. But I'm going to show you a different way, which some people prefer. I don't mind. It depends on which way the wind's blowing and what sort of image I'm retouching, which technique I use. But you're going to use this one for now. Grab a new layer from the layer menu here, and we'll get this dialog box pop up. We're going to name this layer Burn. We're going to put the mode into either overlay or soft light. Going to go for overlay, which is slightly stronger. And the important bit is to tick this box, fill with overlay, neutral color, 50% gray. Tick that. Click OK. Rather than going through all that again, I'm going to duplicate this layer. Command or Control J. So we've got burn copy. I'm going to name this one Dodge. Okay. I'm going to link all these together, select them all, and click on the little chain icon, and that makes sure that nothing moves around if we knock anything. Press Command or Control G. We're going to group these, and this is a dodge and burn technique, so we're going to call this one D and B. And what we're going to do now, we can either use, let me just open these up, we're going to selectively dodge or burn, which is an old photographic technique from the darkroom days, which burn will mean obviously we darken it, the image, light dodge will be lightening. We can either use the dodge and burn tools in here, or if you prefer, which I do, we can use a paintbrush. Now, for burning, we'll use a black paintbrush. Okay, I'm going to just go in a bit closer, and I'm going to set the opacity, the flow down quite low for this. I'm also using a pressure sensitive tablet and pen, but if you haven't got one, that's even more important. And it's very important here to build this effect up bit by bit. I'm going to make my brush a bit smaller, keep it, probably about 30-40% hardness, and wherever we paint now on this burn layer is going to darken the image, and it's very important that you just do this a tiny bit at a time. Don't lay that down too much in one go. And I'm just going to paint around certain areas. Now, the sharpest part of this picture is around Barney's eyes and cheeks here, and that's where we want our viewers' attention to be concentrated on. So we don't really want to be dodging and burning up around here by the ears, particularly, because that's going to draw our viewers' eyes outwards to that area. So we want to concentrate on painting this technique in and around the eyes, like so. And you'll see the effect in a minute when I turn the layers on and off. It might not look like much is happening, but I can assure you it is. And I'm going to keep painting. So let me just zoom out a little bit. Here's before, and here's after, so you can see it's making quite a big difference there. And it's important not to do too much in one go, and just to keep coming back and checking. So that's working out quite well. I'm going to darken the nose a little bit, and also these bits under his nose here, just bringing out those details. Now, without a doubt, you will do this and then come back when you preview it at some point and thinking, oh, that's far too much. So what you can do then is just add a layer mask, and then with painting with black, you can obviously, any areas that you're not happy about or maybe too strong, just come in and paint those away. So very easy to edit these. Same with the dodge. I'm not going to spend hours on this showing you because obviously it'll be boring. With the dodge, we're going to paint with white, and it's the opposite. We want to come in and paint the highlights to brighten these certain highlights, especially around the eyes, and just slowly build the image up bit by bit. We'll do the nose as well. And as I said, it's very important to think about what you're trying to achieve here. You're trying to achieve impact and draw the viewer's eye into certain areas, and so we don't want to be painting all over the place. Just going to lighten the eyes a little bit, and we'll carry on like so. There's before, there's after, so the highlights are really kicking in now. I'm going to do a little bit more down here, but I'll carry on and we'll pop back in 2 seconds. So I've now finished my dodge and burn-in. Here's the layers turned off. There's before, there's after. You can see that's added quite a bit of impact on there. You've got to be a bit careful because you can start to get some quite strange, almost like expressions if you overdo stuff. And if you notice here, I've darkened this area below his nose, and it almost looks like he's got a moustache. So I'm just going to come into the layer mask here, and with the paintbrush with black, I'm just going to bat that off a little bit because I think it looks a little bit strange. Okay, so there's before, there's after. That's a bit better. Maybe just take it away a little bit more. So yeah, so just go careful and just slowly build that up. Now, Barney's got amazing eyes. These aren't photoshopped. These are his natural-looking eyes. He's got one blue one, one brown one, and I want to accentuate that just a little bit, just to just add a little bit more colour to them. So what I'm going to do is add a new layer above the dodge and burn layers. I'm going to get the paintbrush tool, and holding down the Alt or Option key, I'm just going to sample the eyeball there, and click on the swatch, and that's going to tell us it's slightly cool. I want to make it a little bit stronger, the effect, So I'm going to pick a quite a light blue colour, but something with a bit more saturation, like so. I'm going to come in, I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and I'm just going to paint some colour back in to Barney's eye here, like so. Before this after, I'm just going to change the blend mode from normal down to colour, like so. I'm going to do the same, add another layer, do the same for the other eye, get the brush tool, press the Alt Option key to sample the eye there, maybe just get a little bit more saturation again, and do the same again, zoom in, make a brush a bit smaller, just paint over the eye there. So we're just adding almost a natural colour he's already got, but just making it a little bit more stronger. Changed it to colour, the blend mode. There's before, there's after. Let's just zoom out again. So let me just, I'm just going to chain these up again, stop them going AWOL. Highlight those two and press Command or Control G to group them. Call it eye colour. There's before, there's after, like so. And what I might do as well is we don't really want the colour that we're adding to go into the highlights, the catch lights here. We could have a play around with the blend if sliders again and just maybe back that off from the highlights. But I think a better way in this image is to add a new layer. And I'm just going to come in again with a paintbrush, but with white, and just following the natural shape of the catch light there, just go over this with white, like so. Maybe go to filter, blur, and just use a bit of Gaussian blur just to soften this, only a little tiny bit, maybe a pixel. Click OK. Change the blend mode now to either lighten or screen. Let's try screen. Okay, and now just zoom that out again. There's before, there's after. Again, it's just adding a nice bit of nice clean catch light to the eye. I'm going to drop down the opacity a little bit. Before, after, and I'll do another one for this eye. Like so. So very quick and simple. Filter, Gaussian blur again, use the same setting, and just zoom back out again. I mean, might need to just lighten that one. Just drop the opacity, sorry, on that one just a little bit as well. Don't want to overdo it. So there's before, there's after. That's just adding a little bit of sparkle and a little bit more colour to Barney's eyes. If you find it's too much, obviously it's very easy to just come in, especially if you name your layers. I haven't named these yet. And just come in and just drop down the colour a little bit if you feel that it looks a little bit fake and too photoshopped. Now those eyes work really well because we've got one cool eye and one slightly warmer eye, and again it's contrast, it's colour contrast, and the difference between those two creates quite a striking image. On the same token, while we're talking about colour, again, if you refer back to my last video, I talked about how colour can really draw people's attention into certain parts of your image. They can also be very distracting, and red is one of those colours. You only need a very tiniest amount of red in an image, and if it's in the wrong part of your image, it can be very distracting. Now, Barney's got a red collar on here, and I find this needs some adjustment because at the moment it's fighting for our attention down the bottom here. So to take care of this, what we're going to do is we're going to make a selection first of all of the collar. Easiest way of doing this selection on this image, I think, is going to be using the select color range. Because it's quite a bright red, and there's nothing else like it around Barney's neck there. So we're simply going to get the eyedropper tool, click on the red collar there, grab the +1, and we're going to obviously add to that best we can. and we can play with the fuzziness to make sure that we're selecting everything we need. That looks pretty good. Click OK. And now I'm going to add a hue saturation with the selective, with the selection active. Select the hue saturation adjustment, and that will automatically mask our layer here. Let me just click on the alter option key and show you that. Looks a little bit like the dog's chewed it at the moment, so we need to probably clean that up in a minute. In fact, we'll do that now. Let's get the selection tool, and there's a few white bits here we don't want. Let's go around like that, and then I'm going to fill that with black. Clean it up. And just zoom back in here. Let's leave that as it is for now. We can come back in and alter that as we need. We're going to have to refine this a little bit anyway. So I'm not looking to replace the colour, I just want to make it less obvious in the picture. So there's different ways we can do this. Let's try and click on the colorize, and let's try and colorize this a little bit and drop the saturation down. So I'm bringing the saturation down, using the saturation slider of course, and maybe just try and get this away from red a little bit, maybe a bit towards yellow. Somewhere around there might work quite well. There's still a few little bits that need cleaning up. I'll have to go in and do that in a minute. Let's just keep going up. Maybe somewhere around the blue might actually be better again. Yeah, I think I like that. So let's click off of that. So I need to just come in now and just refine this mask and just get rid of some of these other edges. I'm going to highlight the mask, get a paintbrush tool, make sure it's white, and we're just going to come in and paint away the little bits of areas that have still got the red collar showing through. So that's my mask now cleaned up, and there's before, there's after. So let's just come out of there, just get a nice clean screen for a second, and pull that over. So there's before, you know. Okay, but that red, although you may not realise it, is quite distracting, and it does pull your eye down towards the bottom there of the image. And here's after, and that's really helped, and it's also complemented his eye a little bit without me planning that. But what we're also going to do now, just final bit, is I'm just going to make a curve adjustment layer, and I'm just going to darken, and I want to darken that area as well. Like so. I'm going to fill that with white, with black, sorry, not white, with black, to take the adjustment away. Remember, white reveals, black conceals. And now with a paintbrush and white in my foreground, I'm going to paint that adjustment back in, just to darken that area. Again, don't really want my viewer's eye, they don't need to go down looking around there particularly, so we're going to help them out by darkening that area so they're not distracted too much. So there we have it. I've just renamed that one collar. There's before, there's after. We've darkened that down, as I said, just to keep our viewers' attention in the area up here, rather than being wandering down this part where we don't need them to. One final thing, I'm just going to check my levels again by holding down the Alt or Option key. We can get a clipping preview, and that tells us what's clipping, if anything, and that all looks good. In fact, it could go up a little bit if we wanted it to, but we'll leave it where it is, so we know we're not clipping any important detail. Same with the shadows. I'm just going to let his nostrils go black, which they should be, and so that's a good little check just to make sure we're not doing any damage to the image. So there we have it. Here's the before image, and here's our finished layered picture, and with just using a few simple tricks of contrast, colour and luminosity contrast, we've really added, I think you'll agree, quite a bit of impact to the picture, and really made Barney's face and eyes pop using those adjustments, either with the luminosity or the colour, and remove the distracting red collar. So thanks for watching, and I hope to catch you on the next video. Cheers.